This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice. It is not intended to cause or induce breach of any existing agency agreement. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Another episode of the Full Subjects podcast. Today we'll be talking a little bit about pre-sales. I feel like this has been a hot topic, especially as of recently. So yeah, gentlemen, let's take it away.
Honestly, I feel like it's been such a common topic of conversation lately amongst clients, amongst just general conversation with my friends. I had a little mastermind group with a couple of realtors locally here yesterday, and we were chatting about that quite significantly, and just kind of like everything that encompasses pre-sales. What is the motivation behind like going the pre-sale route? I feel from an investment standpoint, a lot of people think you'll make money. Maybe you could possibly assign it before completion, make a quick flip, make a couple dollars quickly. But I think there's just a lot of different things that people need to be aware of when they're doing their due diligence before just, oh, my friend made $100,000 on this pre-sale, I'm going to jump in and do the same thing on one. There's so many different factors in going into that. And one particularly that I came across the other day was just like, there was a specific development in the Lower Mainland that a lot of people were excited about, and I was like, okay, this seems like a cool opportunity too. And then reading into it myself a little bit more, I thought at that time when they were doing, they opened their sales, I think it was a few years ago now, I was like, I looked into it and I said, it looks good for the product, but I felt personally that it was a bit of a premium to pay those top dollar prices for. And then now a lot of these units are starting to complete and a lot of people are losing money. And not only that, from a qualification standpoint, a lot of people are no longer qualifying and cannot complete. So a third of this project literally couldn't complete. And I just haven't heard numbers like that before. So just a little alarm went off in my head. And I was like, I think this is definitely a cool topic of conversation to talk about.
I definitely agree. Pre-sales were a very unique product for a while. A lot of people, like you said, made some money during, especially at the craziness of the market. If you had bought something 3 years out and felt like things were going up percentage points each month for a product, there's definitely some people that made some good money from signing them or flipping them. We always say that obviously anytime you buy a pre-sale, you should plan on completing on it. You're definitely seeing a lot of, like you said, assignment inventory right now, as well as projects that are in pre-sale phases. Lots of units available. I know I've seen other agents talking about like Surrey Central as an example.
Yeah.
Being able to pick up projects for like hundreds of dollars under like price per square foot, which is pretty crazy. Like projects that were selling at $1,000, $1,100 a square foot, and now you can pick up a unit for $800 or $900. Anecdotally, again, I haven't seen one of these personally, but I've seen kind of people posting about just the amount of inventory that's available and people that can't complete what they're needing to do in order to get up under that product. So yeah, it's definitely worth talking about. If you're going the pre-sale route, what you should do.
I think so too, and I think like one thing for just like members of the public out there is like to just be cautious and aware of is like when you're buying these things, use representation. Yes. Don't get sucked into going into these pre-sale offices and they're selling you the dream. It's this price and hopefully it goes up by this by the time the infrastructure around it is developed. And like, that could definitely happen. But like, what if it doesn't? Use a realtor because it's free for you. But at the same time, really focus on the quality of the realtor because I've seen a lot of times too, like agents take advantage of the fact that people are on this train, like the hype train for these pre-sales, and they're just feeding, there's this, and then maybe we can go next year and then you can buy this one. And it's like, you have to look at the whole development like entirely and say, is this actually worth it in the long run? And again, like there's so many factors that encompass like the actual value that will come out of that. And I feel that a lot of people just get blinded by the fact that there's a potential to make money. Like I had some clients the other day reach out to me and they had bought a pre-sale and they didn't go through like myself or my team or anything when they bought it. They went through a family member that was an agent at the time, brought it to their attention, they rolled with it, and like now they're all having all these questions like, okay, Cody, like how does assignments work? I said, well, did this person ever explain it to you? Like we can't even get a hold of this guy anymore.
Well, and then with that too is the developer allowing you to assign them yet.
Exactly. 100%. So it's cool. I wanted to get Cole's opinion just on the qualification for these things. Like what are some things people can look out for? There's some plans in place that lenders already have.
For sure, yeah. There's lots of stuff back there. So sometimes you'll see when you buy pre-sales, they'll have those like qualify, or those kind of like specials where it's like, get a 6-month term for a rate that you wouldn't normally be able to get, like quite a bit lower, or maybe it's a 1-year term. And those are usually to incentivize people to buy, because they're like, oh, I can get a cheaper mortgage option up front, but then what happens after that runs out? Now I gotta qualify for an actual mortgage at actual rates. So that's one thing to watch out for. In terms of qualification, I mean, if rates go higher, it's harder to qualify, right?
Yeah.
We all know that. So if they bought at a time where on paper they qualify at those rates and the rates have doubled, maybe their income hasn't increased enough so that they make up for that difference, right?
Exactly.
Another thing to be concerned about is if the place gets appraised at a value less than what you think it's worth, they're not going to lend you enough money to cover the mortgage amount on that place. So let's say it's worth 6, you think it's worth 6, it comes in at 550. Who's making up that extra 50 grand in terms of what they're going to let you borrow? So there's a little bit more to that, but a lot of things to consider, and that's why it's challenging, right? Because you're buying it at a price point, like you said, Cody, where it's higher than what it is now. And if you don't have the money to make up that, here's my question: what does that mean now for the seller? And what opportunities does that present to somebody maybe like a first-time home buyer that's looking to buy a place at a discount? Like, so maybe there's 2 questions there. What does that mean for the sellers, and then what does that mean for maybe some potential buyers?
Yeah, well, sellers probably, obviously, you know, if they're selling at a loss, they're maybe taking money off of their deposit or walking away with loss of in, which I say this sarcastically, but it isn't great from like an investment perspective. You know, typically you're putting money into something hoping to make money as opposed to you know putting it somewhere and then being less. But yeah, with that being said too, there's also some great opportunities for people getting into the market. And you can get a brand new unit at a discount, than what's paid for it. It can be a great opportunity to get into the market if there's inventory available. You get off the sidelines and you can get into something, right? So
Yeah, no, it was funny because I was like, the guys I was just chatting about this with yesterday, another agent, he was saying, he's like, yeah, well, I actually ended up buying a unit for myself because he had this friend of his who again bought this unit with another agent several years ago. That guy's nowhere again to be found, like in answering some of these questions. So he went to my buddy and he was asking him all these questions, and then at the end of the day, he just said, I just need out of this. And he had 1 bedroom and den, about 745 square feet. This guy had paid about $580 at the time, and just having issues completing on it and everything now, just with the way the appraisal came out and stuff. And my buddy ended up grabbing it off him for like $500. Wow. And it was just like, and he strictly bought that or was hoping to complete on that as an investment. And now, yeah, it's crazy. And he said, like, my friend, the agent, he's dealing with a lot of units in this particular development, and he was just saying that, like, it's a great time to get in there, like you had said, for first-time home buyers, or if you're just an investor looking for a decent deal. And like, I feel like so many of these projects just sell you the dream, right? It's like they sell you the potential of everything, and then you're paying such a premium now, hoping that it's going to go up to that level. But like, if it doesn't, you got to be ready for what happens.
Well, I think with that too, when you're getting representation for a pre-sale, there's so much more than just helping somebody fill out paperwork. The disclosure documents are typically hundreds of pages long. What happens if you pick out a color scheme and you go for your deficiency walkthrough to make sure everything looks good, everything's installed? What happens if you walk into your place and it's the wrong color scheme? There's been agents in our office that have that happen. What happens there? What is considered a deficiency, right? If there's nicks in brand new drywall and stuff like that, then needs to maybe be patched or repainted. Last thing you want to do is pay a premium for something that's brand new to have it beat up. So that's part of what an agent does. Obviously, there's the financing perspective where you want to make sure that you're not having to get requalified later. So I know there's different lenders and different options that will do different things to make sure that basically you have certainty when you put your deposit down on this resale. If it doesn't complete for 2, 3+ years, you will, if your income or your situation changes, obviously again you want to be able to intend on completing on it. But like you said, what if rates have gone up? What if the goalposts have shifted? What if you do that? There's definitely opportunities sometimes pre-sale, but there is a lot of risks as well that people want to talk about. Like, you're buying a contract of a house, you're not buying a unit or a house. You're you're buying what it should look like and what the floor plan should be, but lots can happen in 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think a lot of it's timing, right? Like you have the people to succeed in these demographics. You have people that don't. Like I had this one couple, for example, like they were looking for something new, you know, new townhome in the Langley area, and we looked at several developments and kind of benchmark price point for what they're looking for is probably like 880 to 900 at that time, and we looked at several, and then they said, okay, you know what, let's kind of put it on pause for 2 months. We're just going to save a little bit more money, and then we got out there again, started looking at places, and found one development in particular that had like, it was just the timing of the market. There wasn't a ton selling. There was people out there looking, not a ton was selling, so they ended up finding like their dream place, which was previously listed at 888, and they got it for 805.
Wow.
Then for them, it was that, but again, the majority of this development had already sold out. But they had several units that were nice location, nice color scheme, nice floor plan, and they scored. They did great. And like they ended up buying this, I think, in springtime of this year, and we hadn't sold their place yet. But we knew, okay, it's completing in December. I did kind of a little trajectory of where I see the market going for what they had specifically to sell, and like we sold theirs for top dollar. They got into this at a great price point. They went from a 2-bedroom condo to a 3-bedroom townhome, and like their difference of what they paid was less than $100,000.
Wow.
And like they were just loving life. So it can work out in your favor, right? But I looked at so many different variables going into that, and again, no one has a crystal ball, but just I see so many people that they're so naive to everything that goes into it that like you just got to be careful with what you're doing out there. Like,
So how can a first-time home buyer take advantage of these things right now? What are some things that they need to watch out for when they're being assigned a contract? Is there anything in particular they should be careful of, or is it pretty standard? This is the contract, you take it over, you fulfill the obligation to complete on it.
I think
Simple as that, or is there more to it?
I think it is pretty standard. I think a lot of it is how it's explained and how that information is shared to the client. Because like I had a previous client of mine, I sold him a place a couple of years ago, and she reached out to me the other day, and she's like, hey, do you mind if one of my employees calls you? And I was just like, yeah, like, no worries, I was happy to help. And same situation, this guy had bought a pre-sale with someone, and he was a first-time home buyer looking to actually inhabit this place himself and occupy it, and it's just, he had never been explained to how like assignments work or anything, and he actually bought this unit from an assignment. Like he took it over and everything, but he had no idea about what that entailed. So during his little rescission period, I guess like 7 days to try and figure out like if he's actually going to follow through with this or not, he couldn't. His agent had no answers for him. He went to him, asked him all these questions, knew nothing, and then he called me just as for an opinion. He's not going to use me for anything, but just to kind of
You gotta be
gauge.
careful with that too, right?
And that's what I said to him. I said, I can't really do too much here with you. I can't let you tell me too many things right now either. So it puts us in a weird position too, but it's just unfortunate that like people will get you into these situations and it's like, hey, see you later.
Pre-sales are a different beast than even resale.
Yeah.
Everybody is new at something at one point or another, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into pre-sales that I don't think people appreciate. You know, what happens if, you know, you're talking about lining things up that are supposed to be in December? What happens if that project runs 6 or 8 months late?
100%.
What happens if that project completes early?
Yeah, and that's a very common thing. I mean, you hear about that all the time, right? In projects, yeah, if it completes early,
Yeah.
that's a whole other ball. But that has happened, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but then on the flip side, everyone, like, their expectation is usually these things are delayed, but then, yeah, it's like, what's your living situation going to be like? It may not be a seamless transition from your current place to the new place. It might be several months in between or you're homeless.
And with that too, what if the market shifts from, you know, what you thought your place was worth at the time and then what you were paying? What if things shift and the math doesn't necessarily math anymore, right? These are all of the risks of potentially purchasing pre-sale. And again, like you said, there are some projects that make more sense than others. Like there's definitely been some kind of premium projects. One that we went to the pre-sale together that we looked at, and it was a very unique product. Yeah, it was a little bit more premium, but there was nothing like that.
Exactly.
And a lot of people said, okay, well this makes, you know, I like this makes sense, and you know, people did navigate towards that or maybe end up, you know, purchasing. I don't believe that one completes for a while.
Mhm.
But again, with that, what if something changes?
100%. And you know, like I bought one myself last year that completes next year, and it was just like I found the amount of due diligence that I couldn't even sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, when our rescission period came, the 7 days were closing. I was like, I looked at so many different things,
Units, yeah.
and like just units, like what's the OCP like in this area, what's that going to change, like what other factors and infrastructure around this are going to support like a higher value down the road, and like then I just came to the conclusion that like, yeah, this is good. This one, it makes sense. I would tell my clients about this. So like, why am I not doing it? You know, so it's, but yeah, there's so much that goes into it. I just feel like it's just so poorly communicated, and information is readily available to people. I just feel like half the time they don't really know what they're looking for either, and that's our job, is to help. But if we don't have the opportunity to help you and you're just going and doing this, that's not great either.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting time. I mean, there's obviously a lot of supply. We've talked about this a lot. And this adds to supply, right? At the end of the day. Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from this is I do see the opportunity from the buyer side. That's obviously sellers, or not sellers, but the people that are trying to complete in this case. It's concerning, right? They're going to probably lose some money if they can't complete on it, but I'm trying to see the opportunity side of it, and I think there is a lot of opportunity there for people to buy. And ultimately, what's a better option? Is it better to buy something brand new that you can get at quote-unquote a discount? Now, it should be noted that, like, is it truly a discount, or is it a discount based on what the price was previously?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, is it
absolutely.
actually a discount,
Yeah.
or is it not? But my question is, or is it better to just buy something that you know has existed for a while, you know what to expect? Because the downside, I guess, that I see for new places is you don't know the building. Because everything's new, which is good, but it can also be bad.
Well, and with that too, that's also why, like, you know, not every project is created equal. You have to do research on the developer. You have to do research on the, you know, the builder. You know what appliances, or all of that stuff. Like, all of it, there's so many different layers to it.
Yeah. And I think like the biggest thing too to touch on is like you have time to do this, because like where I see a big disconnect here is like a lot of people, again, you get sucked into the emotion and the hype of like, yeah, we got a pre-sale, it's not ready for a couple of years, we don't have to qualify right now, but we have the money to put down. But then like once you've done that and your rescission days pass, you've given them your final deposit, whatever, it's like a secure deal, then it's like, okay, well now we're looking into the developer, and like we don't really know or have heard anything about this developer, or all we've heard are negative things. We never thought about this. And then like, and just like how things can change so fast. Like I know, I was just from an affordability standpoint, I was talking to a mortgage broker the other day about something, and they were saying, yeah, RBC has these plans for people where we can lock you into a rate now, even if it's not completing for another 2-3 years. Like that's great, but then within that, like you have people that don't go that route, and then within these 2 years, we went and bought $100,000 truck, or we took out a loan for our kids, like whatever it was. And it's just like, you can't be doing these things. But again, if you have no one to tell you that in this beginning, like yes, you should do your own due diligence. But like if you don't want to, hire, at least work with a realtor, or work with a team or somebody that has their best interests in mind. Because I just see this becoming a very common theme, at least in what I've been experiencing in the last couple months. I don't know about anyone else, but yeah, it can be scary out there, but it can also be rewarding. If it makes sense and it checks out, then it's good.
So that goes back, Austin, to what we talked about. I think it was the last episode. Well, I guess this will probably be 2 episodes ago now. Don't make any major financial changes between when you purchase a place and when you complete. The problem is with the pre-sale, those dates are quite a bit longer in between, right? It's not your 3 to 4 months, maybe it's your 3 to 4 years. So it's a little bit harder to not change your financial obligations over that time. And I get it. Maybe you don't need a new car. Maybe you need a different car in that time. But
or maybe just that project's not for you. Maybe you can find something at a good price point that completes in a year, and then after that year you can go get your new car.
Yeah,
it's all good.
for sure. So that's the big thing. Is like, I think a lot of people struggle with looking that far ahead. They can deal with what's happening right now, but financially maybe they're not savvy enough to go, okay, how do I make sure I'm in a position in 3 to 4 years or whatever it is to make sure that this is going to work? Because
100%.
I'm paying today prices, but 3 to 4 years from now, what is my financial situation going to look like?
I think with that too, it's also worth having a conversation of, who is a pre-sale good for, right? Like if you're planning on being in something in 3 or 4, 3 years as an example, does it make more sense for you to just buy something that is turnkey and done and ready now? Right?
Yeah.
Because there's, we talked about inventory being higher. There's definitely, whatever product you want to look at right now, whether it's condos, townhouses, detached, not boat homes apparently, boat homes and float homes. That's a story for another time. But with that being said, maybe it just makes more sense to move into something, that's ready right now. And that's a good conversation to have with the realtor that you're working with. Okay, like I like the idea of this, I like the finishings of this. Is there anything that's ready now?
Yeah.
Maybe it makes more sense for me to move in 3 months because, there's so many different parts of pre-sales, right? There's the deposit amount, the deposit structure, when those are due. Obviously, there's a 7 days where you can change your mind, basically, when purchasing a pre-sale, and that's kind of your quote-unquote, can be your due diligence period, but it's also a little bit of buyer's remorse period.
For sure.
But with that being said, too, like, you also don't need to, typically, you're able to get information about the project before they actually start selling.
Yeah.
Right, so you can start to do your homework on the developer, the finishings, all of that kind of stuff.
100%.
So you don't have that FOMO of missing out. And, there's some units that are typically more in demand than others. Like in condos, typically, your top floor, your penthouse units, or your larger units might be a little bit more premium. Oftentimes, the bottom floor ones as well. If you've got pets and there's a yard, that can be kind of premium. Corner units, like people will often pay a little bit more for some of the extra bells and whistles and stuff. But even with that too, floor plan is so important, right? Like, do you just because something is the square footage, not all square footage is created equal. I've been in 800 square foot places that feel tiny, and I've been in 800 square foot places that feel huge and open, right? So, lots that go into it, and
that's a great thing to touch on, I feel, because I've seen people, not my clients specifically, but I've had friends that have gone through this where it's like, hey, we bought this pre-sale. About a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, corner unit. It has tons of space. We just got a dog because it has so much space. And they get there, and it's just like wasted space. The floor plan is horrible. Instead of a 2-bedroom, it feels like 1 bedroom with a closet. And then it's like all these things we planned for, we never actually got to see. The show home didn't have a 2-bed or didn't have our layout or floor plan. We just rolled with it. And I see that happen so much. And you have time to do your due diligence, you know what I mean? Like, especially within those 7 days you have from the time that you get an accepted offer to your deposit that you have to pay. Like, do you have time? You can even go and get approved. Get a rate locked in for you if that's the route you want to go, but at least that way, worst case scenario, you can qualify for that by the time it comes.
It sounds funny too, but maybe part of your due diligence can be checking out a unit that was built by the same developer.
Absolutely,
right? So,
absolutely.
Here in the valley, we have a couple main ones. When I was looking in Vancouver with some clients, it was funny. You knew just by the appliance package and finishing, like, this was this builder, that was that builder, and it was very, I don't want to say cookie cutter because that's not fair, but it was consistent.
Yeah,
is the way to put it. So you know exactly what you're getting, and you see that with the developers here. Go do a walkthrough of one at an open house and say, okay, this is the builder that's this pre-sale that project that I want. This is another unit that was built. Okay, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Do the finishings and everything line up, or have they made changes? There's so many resources that you can look into. You just have to do the homework.
Exactly.
And make an educated of a decision as you can.
Yeah, and I think Austin made a very, very good point with what you just said. I think, like, within your due diligence, going and scoping out other products that the builders made, for example. So, like, I recently moved into a new building where, like, it's brand new, nice unit, lots of cool floor plans, and they still have several units for sale, even though a lot of these have completed already. There's still several units for sale. The sales office is on the main floor, and like they still are open. They're facilitating deals and everything. And the other day, it was funny. I hopped in the elevator, and I ran into the sales lady who happened to be an agent I've done lots of deals with. And I was like, what are you doing here? And she's like, or I was like, I live here. She's like, oh yeah, I'm downstairs. I actually have these people looking for this kind of unit. And I was like, no, that's exactly what I have. So she's like, is there any way you can take some pictures? And I said, just come see it. Yeah. It's all good. My place is pretty mint. So like, they came in and they fell in love with like the layout, and they were so happy. They asked me so many questions, and it made them feel so good. And they're like, this is what we needed to really like take us there. And like exactly what you said. I think that's such a good thing to be doing.
It's a resale pre-sale.
Yeah,
right? Look, feel it, but you're getting something brand new, and in some cases you get what you pay for too.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Sweet. Well, anything else, guys? That's awesome.
No, just do your homework, and if we can help, we're here to help.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode, guys. Take care, and I'll see you next week.